Welcome, everyone. My name is Madeline Snow. I'm at UMass Lowell, Lowell Center for Sustainable Production. I want to thank everyone for participating today, spending the time on trying to figure out how to reduce operating costs in food and beverage companies, especially during these challenging times of COVID-19. This is the first in a series of what I call Third Friday of the Month webinars, geared around sustainability and pollution prevention in beverage and food manufacturing and processing. I have been working in the food and beverage sector for a few years and thank EPA for their support of this work and for their leadership. EPA Region 1 New England in particular. I'd also like to thank the UMass Amherst Industrial Assessment Center and their Center for Energy Efficiency and Renewable Energy. The Massachusetts Department of Environmental Protection, who has continued to be a supporter a long time, and the Mass Office of Technical Assistance, Recycling Works, and the Toxics Use Reduction Institute, who is also working on a project related to pollution prevention and lean tools. So thank you again. And I want to note that this meeting is being recorded. Thank you, Lauren and Joy, for reminding me. And breakout groups will not be recorded, but the chat will be saved. And I will leave our Zoom link open 15 minutes after the end of this webinar. It won't be recorded, but if you'd like to talk more informally, that would be great. And I will keep it open just for some additional discussion if you'd like. And people keep coming in. This is great. And now I need to get on to my next slide. So who's online today? This slide makes me very hungry. As I said, 85 people have registered. I'm not sure how many are actually on right this minute, but it just gives you a sense of the variety of food and beverage companies and across the country, and actually Canada and Mexico as well. We also have a variety of state regulatory and pollution prevention agencies who have signed up. And we have a federally recognized tribe as well. And we have 4 municipalities who registered for this webinar, and a variety of technical assistance providers at colleges and universities across the country. And finally, but not least, a variety of nonprofits and vendors and consultants who also registered for this project. For this webinar. And I think the variety reflects just the interest in lots of different parts of the food and beverage world. So bagels happen to be my favorite food, I have to say. And as I mentioned, we've got the Third Friday of the Month series. Today is an introduction, then we'll go into cleaning and disinfection. I think next one is water, waste, energy, and then we'll end up with sort of telling your own story, how to take some of the information and experiences you've had in pollution prevention and sustainability and tell that story and communicate it internally and externally. I haven't scheduled one on food waste, but if people might be interested, I can do that as well. So one of the questions always is, how do you start? Like, where do you start? And I'm going to introduce a tool that I created. I call it the spider. And for those of you who've been in workshops with me, you're probably very, very tired of seeing this and using this, but we're going to have to do it again. And this is not a scientific tool. It is a tool to use internally to spur discussion, share some perspectives, and it's just a way to figure out where to start. And over time, it actually does show progress, which is really great. Word of caution, don't overthink this. And it can be used just to identify a whole bunch of opportunities. So I'm going to stop share right now, and I'm going to bring up the tool. And Allison is going to, Allison Jolly from the Plenus Group is actually going to be my wonderful guinea pig, and is going to try this out, if that's okay. Welcome, Allison, and thank you again for always being willing to share and to share your experiences and your insights. So let me share this. And again,
thank you, Madeline.
Here we go. Let's try this. Okay, so this is just a series of questions, okay? We're going to start. And this is something, and I will make this tool available to everyone who's registered. And it's just a fun, I hope, fun way of doing a quick assessment. And again, it's not scientific. You don't have to share this. It's yours. And there are no right or wrong necessarily answers. Okay, so Allison, let's talk about energy first. And let's look at energy conservation, reduction, efficiency. Would you say you have no projects, you have some, and maybe you've got a whole bunch of them? What would you say?
I'll say thanks to the Industrial Assessment Center, we have some projects or programs. 3.
So I'm going to give you a 3, okay? And when in doubt, and you don't really know something, you have a question, you just put a 3 and you move on. How's that? Okay, how about, do you ever review your energy bills?
We do sometimes, probably not enough.
Okay. And you'll notice that if sometimes you review them, and then the ultimate is that you actually review them, you analyze them, and you actually make changes accordingly. Do you have any on-site generation or use of renewables?
Not currently, but again, thanks to the Industrial Assessment Center, we have plans should we ever want to do our own power generation. So a 2 in this case.
2? Okay,
Yep.
There you go. And how about water? Any projects or programs related to water conservation?
We're currently in a program with Turi, with Joy Onash, to sort of see how lean manufacturing practices can help us reduce our water waste. So I'd give us a 3 there.
Okay. Do you ever look at your water bills?
With Joy, we did. We'll be doing it a lot more as we attempt to try not to be billed for the water that we use for our production, the municipal water we use. So I'll give us a 3 there.
Okay. Do you do any water reuse or recycling?
We'll call that a 4.
All right, that's good. All right. And for those of you who just joined us, we're just going over a self-assessment tool, and we're having Allison Jolly from the Plenus Group actually go through this and fill out to her best of her ability. How about cleaning and disinfection? Do you have a practice of reading labels and looking at information on materials?
Yeah, due to our SQF certification, that's a 5. Everything else has a MSDS sheet.
Okay. How about any plans to use safe and less toxic materials while still maintaining food safety requirements? I want to make sure that very clear.
Mm-hmm. We're going to give that a 5.
All right. And do you have any kind of purchasing policy to discourage or preventing overstocking use of high hazard products?
I'm going to give us a 3 on that.
All right. And the supply chain, do you have any policies or efforts to local source?
Fledgling policies, but a really, really powerful thing to start talking about. I'm going to give us a 3 there.
All right. How about any policies or efforts to check on the compliance or sustainability practices of vendors?
So yeah, I'll give us a 4 there. That also is part of our SQF requirement.
Okay. And any programs to promote sustainability practices by vendors?
I'm going to give us a 3 there. We really stretched out to sort of trying to influence our vendors' practices yet.
And this particular one can vary greatly, whether you're a small or really large company, and this varies very greatly. And again, these are just questions to start a conversation and to just, to have a conversation. It may not be that you want to do this, that's fine, just to have a conversation. How about solid waste? Do you have any programs to keep banned materials like organic waste from other solid waste?
Yeah, in order to stay compliant with the mass DEP requirements, we do.
So that's a 5?
That's a 5, yes, ma'am.
All right. How about some recycling programs? None, some?
I'd say in place and documented, I'd give us a 5 for carton and cans.
Okay. And how about reducing the generation of solid waste?
I'd give us a 3 there.
Okay. And now we move to universal waste, which are light bulbs, white goods, computers, things like that. How about labels for storage?
You know, this isn't really my area of expertise and talks about a part of the building that I don't usually go into, which is the warehouse shop. So I'm going to say for this unknown, for me personally, if we were asking our maintenance guys and our facilities guys, it'd be a different story, I'm sure.
So what I've done is giving you a 3 because again, when in doubt, you just go neutral. But I've noted that this is unknown and this needs to be followed up.
Excellent.
And same thing with the condition and location of storage areas.
Yep, same.
3, same thing.
3.
Okay. And understanding of requirements, it sounds like not really.
For me, yeah, personally, not really. I do know about that. We can't have we need to have shatterproof hard plastics within our facility, but that's about all.
Okay, so I've just given you a 2. How's that?
Sure.
Now, in terms of hazardous materials and waste management, how about adequacy of labels and records?
Yeah, we don't have too much hazardous material waste, but I'll give us a 3 there.
Okay. Okay. How about location of storage areas?
Definitely a 5, very secure, and that's a result of a few SQF audits ago. So
Okay.
stays with
And
us.
how about plans to reduce the amount of hazardous waste that you actually generate?
Yeah, so we've done so again with the help of the Turi Institute. We've done some, so I'll call it a 3.
All right. And emergency preparedness, spill kits, eye wash stations.
I'll give us a 5.
Okay. I work with a lot of people who, oh, we've got them, but who knows where they are? They're buried somewhere and they're certainly not where they would be used if, God forbid, that was needed. How about training and competence and preventing and responding to spills and incidents?
I'm going to give us a 2 there because I haven't been a part of developing any training beyond I'd say the onboarding of people, letting people know where they are. We haven't done too much work about
okay,
how to respond to a spill.
And do you have any drills? Do people know who to notify if there was an issue?
For hazardous waste, bloodborne pathogens, and emergencies like 911, yes. So we do have a notification in process. I mean,
4 or 5? What would you say?
I'll give us a 4.
Okay. And in housekeeping, frequency of cleaning and disinfection.
I'm going to give us a 5 there on account of our operational sanitation procedures.
And it is a very clean facility. General cleanliness.
5.
Yeah.
Happy to say.
Yeah. Slip, trip, and debris conditions.
I'm going to give us a 3 there.
Okay.
Oil and water.
And how about self-inspections? Do you do them regularly, a walkthrough? Do you document them, et cetera?
Yes, we do. Again, part of our operational sanitation procedures, a 5.
Hey, Madeline, sorry, you missed the 5 in the general cleanliness box.
Ooh, thank you.
Thanks, Joy.
Yeah. Don't want you to lose points.
How about following up on identified issues? Yeah, you got inspections.
A 5.
5, all right. I work with a lot of people and that's not the case.
Yeah.
Any recurring issues?
We do have some recurring issues, yes. It's the nature of the beast.
The 3?
I'll give us a 3, please. Thanks.
All right. Okay, so hopefully, magically, this will show up as a spider here. So what's the point of this? What does this say to you, Allison?
It says,
yeah,
I'm looking at it and it says that there are a lot of places that we excel, but I love seeing the dips that'll show us where we have to pay attention. So for instance, around energy and around universal waste and supply chain, it's a very clear map of where I need to sort of fill in my knowledge, I guess, at this point.
And based on this, what do you think? You might give me just one action item that you might want to do.
I would say write the universal waste plan.
Okay. Well, you get the picture here. So for everyone else, this is just a quick example. You can do it with a group. You can do it just a few of you, but it gives you a little place to start. And my gut, Allison, is that 5 years ago, or maybe even 3 years ago, this spider would look a little bit different.
Very different.
And the idea is eventually you want to create a pancake. And what you do is you do this every 6 months as an example, and you actually get to see the differences. So again, this is just one example. It's just a little self-assessment. I'll make it available, but it's super useful and it can be applied. I've used it for many, many different companies and organizations, not just food and beverage folks. So with this, I'm going to stop my share. I am going to ask Allison to do a little presentation and have some more discussion about her experiences.
Sure, Madeline, do you want me to pull up the slides on my end?
Yeah, would that be okay?
Yep, that's fine. Just give me 1 second.
Sure. And for those, again, in the chat, if you have any questions or comments, would like to know more, and if you can't find them, Allison, I do have them available. It's up to you.
1 sec, just sharing my screen.
Sure.
Can you all see a big overhead drone shot of our facility?
Yes.
Excellent. So my name is Allison Jolly. My father and my aunt started the Plenus Group in 2002. We're a custom food manufacturer located proudly in Lowell, Massachusetts. In 2018, we were able to receive a bonded loan from the Mass Department of Development and using a bond from the city of Lowell to actually purchase the site that you see here and add it and also growing it by 100%. So we used to work out of a 16,000 square foot facility. Our facility is now a 32,000 square foot. We have around 140 employees. And we do business coast to coast. Very exciting. Oops, these are just some of our pretty, as I've just completely passed through them all, some pretty pictures of our new beautiful building that we were able to finally add on after we purchased the building. Our mission, as stated by my father, Joe Jolly, is to create a human enterprise. We're really interested in being an employer here in Lowell for as long as the market can possibly stand us. We want to deliver the best quality food that's culinary driven, that's tasty, and that meets the expectations of our very discerning customers. And we have hoped to go through a thoughtful evolution as we grow our business. I mean, we started in 2002 with a revenue of $600,000. Things look a little different now. And we are a little bit stronger as an organization, and we have a lot more experience, and we've been able to learn a lot from our communities. So you'll recognize this. This is the spider, sort of like a blank of the spider assessment that Madeline just brought us through. And I kind of wanted to use this as a way to talk about some of the initiatives we've had towards greening our bottom line. We know that doing business now in our economy with very discerning consumers, as Madeline says, sustainability, it's not an option anymore. It's more like, what are you doing for sustainability? And it took us connecting with Madeline a few years ago to really learn vocabulary to talk about the organization that we want to be and part of our food system at large. So in terms of energy, we did complete an industrial assessment center audit, which for me was a learning experience. I was able to walk a facility with Lauren Mattinson, who's on this call, and some grad students, and really get an engineer's view of our facility, which was super, super cool. They were very knowledgeable, very detail oriented, and very easy to work with. There was a lot of low hanging fruit that their fresh eyes were able to let us know that, maybe we shouldn't have the compressed air running all the time, things like that. They also were able to identify potentials for us to, potential situations where we could conserve some of the heat that was coming off of our production facility and turn it into energy. At the time, the return on investment, it was a high, something maybe like $800,000 would be the cost to implement this thing. Now, at that time, that was a little scary. We had just gone through a development phase. That price tag looked sort of scary after we've spent all this money building a new building. However, now a year and a half, 2 years down the road, where we're planning the next phase of development, it's actually something that we're looking at and saying, oh, that might be really great to involve in our future plans for growth. So I found it really helpful that they, for free and very graciously, were, that this resource was there to help us see where we are now and where we could be. Going back to that report, it's so interesting to see that something that seemed like such a big ticket item then is actually becoming more and more doable and also more necessary because, this was before Texas had their giant outages. I know that, we have a slightly different power grid, but would it not be prudent to see if we couldn't harness some of the power that we generate here and save it for emergency situations or if the power goes out? It just helps us be more resilient. And I think that's something, there's sort of like a theme through all of these things that I'm going to talk about is sort of how do we become a more resilient member of our food system at large? We're currently working with Joy Onash of Turi on the lean manufacturing project, trying to focus the concepts of Six Sigma and lean manufacturing to try to see if we can't conserve some water. It's really wonderful to have the help of Turi here. Not only is Joy very organized, a great teacher in her own right, she also is willing to sort of go to bat for us. We were sitting this morning at a meeting where she's like, I'm going to be calling Lowell Water again. We're going to try to figure out how to save you money. And I just can't believe that we're having a meeting where someone who doesn't work for Plenus Group is thinking about our bottom line. It makes it really easy to sell to management. I can tell you that. That's just the type of language that they want to hear. In terms of cleaning and disinfection, last year we worked with a grad student from Turi to see if we can't lower our, we were initially looking to see if we could find an alternative to sodium hydroxide. And this was actually a cool thing about this project. We weren't able to find that alternative. However, we were able to really dive into our cleaning process, and we found out that we're able to use less sodium hydroxide than originally assumed. The other really cool thing that happened as a result of that, or that really I learned as we were working on this project, was that we were piggybacking off of a study that was done at another soup manufacturer in the state. And this is, some people would call us competitors, but really we're just existing in the same market space at very different levels of size and revenue. However, we do the same stuff. And that there was a little bit of, you feel a little bit of camaraderie. Those companies are also a big part of the food system in our state. So we really are working together to make sure that we are keeping our environments as safe and healthy for our employees and for the consumers who eat our products. So that really helped me see that all of the private entities in the food space here in Massachusetts can do work alongside each other to make it a better place to do business. In terms of supply chain, we recently in 2019, we launched a brand called Urban Fresh, in which we have a social impact partner, Mill City Grows of Lowell, Massachusetts. They are a nonprofit who fight for food justice in Lowell through urban agriculture. Now, it was actually a thought experiment in Madeline's office with one of the co-founders of Mill City Grows, where we really considered, there is a possibility that we could source a percentage of ingredients from urban farms here in Lowell. And that sort of blew my mind, whether it's going to be gleaned seconds product potentially that we could get at a good price, or whether it's sort of an exotic herb grown in one of their sort of hot houses. It can happen, and it could make, we've recently been learning that food grown locally and used close to the source of the food is actually more nutritious, more flavorful, fresher. And, instead of spending however many dollars a pound buying IQF herbs from California, we could spend a little money and buy it from a local farm, even a local urban farm, and at the same time be supporting initiatives to keep the soil in Lowell good. I recently learned that soil is does some of the best carbon sequestration, healthy soil with lots of microbiomes. So it's like, that's where we want to be spending our money if we can. So that has been really cool. In Urban Fresh, we are going to use produce grown in Lowell to make some of those batches of soup come harvest time, and that makes me just really proud. It was also through Mill City Grows that we're doing work now as part of the Lowell Food Assessment, which is a sort of multidisciplinary group that is coming together to assess the very specific food needs of specific underrepresented populations here in Lowell, like students, elderly, and people who make low income. So that has been really cool, and so it's just been really wonderful. One thing that Madeline did help us was to sort of plug in more deeply to not just our regional food system, but our hyper local one. And more to come on that. I just can't wait to see where we are on that spider chart next year. I'd love to be able to report, however many dollars or pounds of local produce that we've used in our production. So this for solid waste, we actually recently we haven't put a timeline on it, but we want to figure out how we can get to zero food waste in our facility. So the Mill City Grows urban farming, they may have maybe about 14 different small farms. Last year, they came to zero food waste. So every bit of their food grown was either sold or donated. We want to get to that same place. So in order to do that, we have to, again, keep deepening our connection to our local food system. That's our community partners, like our local food banks, our local soup kitchen. You know, for the future, we know that there are some students, there are some students in Massachusetts who have been unable to work. So we want to see how we can't get some of our food to them. During the pandemic, we were supplying food that couldn't be sold to distributors, whether it didn't have enough shelf life to make it through the distribution channel of the supermarket. Well, it has enough shelf life to make it into a box delivered by UTEC, which is a youth organization here in Lowell. They were able to give out, cups of soup that we had frozen they were feeding 100 families a week using our food that, again, couldn't be sold at retail, but was perfectly healthy and perfectly good, and made a lot of families able to, put something nutritious and warm into their bellies during a unprecedented global crisis. One thing that has been sort of tough. We used to, well, it's not really tough, but we have 2 years ago, the Mass Department of Environmental Protection meant that we said that we had to start composting organics, which is excellent. We decided to go the route of to take our trash contract and our waste contract and use them for the organics. Of course, in our neighborhood, we do have some really forward-thinking organizations that are able to process organic waste in a biodigester, et cetera. Now, when we first started, their prices weren't what we were able to pay. So it was just like, we couldn't swallow like a 3x increase in our trash contract. However, now they're, 2 years down the line, they're coming in very, very competitive for being able to, so that we'll be able to move our business to them at a competitive price now that, they've had more support in the market. So just because you can't do something now doesn't mean that, 5, 10, maybe months or years down the line, at least you know where you're going and you know where you want to be. So that was really cool. What else? What else do I have to say? I'm sorry, I'm a little rambly, y'all. Oh, that's it. And I can't go back. Sorry, I ended my slides. That's it. That's enough for slides. I have a lot more to say if y'all want to hear me.
Thank you, Allison.
Yeah.
I think we'll move on. Just a few notes. One is the theme of partnerships, whether it's with a college or university, a nonprofit in your area. Another theme is that in general, I mean, this has been a brutal year. I can't say for other parts of the country or other country, but it's been a brutal year for our companies in Massachusetts and New England. And anything that we can do to support them during this time is really, especially for our public universities, that's really that is part of our overall mission. The other thing is that there are industrial assessment centers across the country. We happen to have a wonderful one at UMass Amherst, but there are other industrial assessment centers, and there are other pollution prevention technical assistance providers as well. So the experiences that Allison is outlining, I mean, Turi is based in Massachusetts, but there are other resources available to you. What I'd like to do now, if I can figure it out, and I hope, is that you've talked to us quite a bit, and we've talked to you quite a bit, and now it's a little chance for you to talk to yourselves. And I'm going to put you in breakout rooms, and I'm just going to ask you to think about, from what you've heard and the little assessment tool in the presentation, what has struck you the most? And in general, just introduce yourselves, talk about maybe some of the challenges that you have had or successes you've had in greening your own bottom line in either the companies that you represent or the companies that you work with. And I'm going to try and put you into groups with probably 5 or 6 in each one. And I will bring you back in about 10 or 11 minutes. So again, just talk amongst yourselves. What's worked, what hasn't worked, and what has struck you from the presentation so far. Thanks. See you soon. Oh. Kevin, would you like to be put into another group without just me? Yeah, good. Welcome back, bit by bit. Welcome back. Oh. I'm just asking sort of what's the one thing that you'd like to report? From your breakout group. And you can put it in the chat, or you can also unmute yourself and add to the group.
Hi, Madeline. This is Rob.
Hey, Rob.
And I just wanted to say we had Nick with us, who is working at mainly doing facility maintenance and and fabrication work. And so he was one of the, a lot of direct experience. And one thing that he talked about was a lot of different projects that are being worked on. I asked the question about, do you have an opportunity to work and connect with other businesses? And it's a competitive area. And so it's not as something that is as prominent as it was maybe in the past, finding colleagues to talk with and to share information with. So I just, that struck me as something which I wasn't surprised about but I thought it was telling.
Mhm. Anyone else? Just unmute yourself and share one thing that you think we should all know.
Hi, Madeline. This is Mike from Mass DEP.
Hey, Mike.
Hi. I was in a group with Bob and Michelle who have pollution prevention grants, and one of the main stumbling blocks that they seem to run across was these really good assessments that have been done and the inability to actually implement the recommendation. So we talked a little bit about some of our experiences in the water wastewater sector. So the bottom line is, how do you jumpstart good energy savings or cost saving projects and get them to construction and implementation?
Great, thanks. How about one other person? One other group? Something you want us to know?
I'll share from our group,
Sure.
Deborah and Lucas and Sarah and Estella, that Sarah and Estella are in the Midwest. Lucas is at Lint and I'm at PGI. So it's like and so Deborah's here in the Northeast. So everybody's having a little trouble finding firms to take all of their waste, whether it's to reuse it, to recycle it. There's a shortage of space. There's a shortage of firms to process it in the Midwest and in the Northeast. So that was something that we all shared.
And Jim Kane is sharing differences in ability to implement ideas, whether a smaller company or a big company. One of the interesting things when we had roundtable, when we could actually be in person and did face-to-face workshops, is that one of the questions we had was, could different companies in size or the kind of company, whether they're beverage or what kind of beverage, what kind of food, what could they learn from each other? And what's fascinating is just the applicability and also the similarities and the challenges that all the different companies had. And what was really interesting, just sort of as Allison joined, some of the best expertise is in your fellow companies, whether they're competitors or so-called competitors. But I was always struck by the willingness of companies to mentor and help and support each other, again, especially during these times. I'm going to move on, and I appreciate your patience. You've been super. Hold on, I'm going to share my screen again, I think. Let's try it. Let's try. Where am I? Here we are. All right. No, that's not the share I want. Ah. There you go. I'm still stuck on this one. Ah. Here we are. I just want to do a quick reminder in terms of pollution prevention. And if those of you are interested in food recovery, the concept being that, because I hear a lot of people, oh, we do great recycling. We do so much recycling. Yes, but what are you doing to actually reduce the waste that you're creating? What's that source reduction? And the same idea goes in with food recovery. So I work with a whole bunch of organizations that are really interested in sending off their food waste for to feed hungry people, which is laudable, but no attention made to source reduction. And so just as a reminder, in terms of pollution prevention and sustainability, what you're trying to do is put the emphasis on the source reduction. And with that, there's the Lindt chocolates, Danny. I just wanted you to know, as well as bagels. They are my two favorite foods. But in summary, paying attention to what's happening in your operations in terms of sustainability and opportunities to reduce costs. And again, pollution prevention as a business strategy. And there are lots of opportunities in terms of energy, toxic use reduction, waste, water. Look for them, support is available, and don't forget to be able to measure and communicate results. One of the saddest things is when companies do all this fantastic stuff and forget to actually compile that information and even if it's anecdotal, and actually communicate that internally and externally. And this, for a lot of companies, this really is about their brand. I always remember this little maple syrup company in Vermont because of their wood-fired, solar-powered slogan. They have taken something which is part of their operation, but made it actually as part of their brand and to promote their brand. And I'm not going to talk about this, but one of the issues that has come up always is, well, what do I, you know, where do I go for assistance? And it can be overwhelming, and just trying to make it easier for companies to understand what resources are available. And I'll share some of that as a follow-up as well. Again, please contact us anytime. This is me getting my first vaccination at Fenway Park. Go Sox. But please contact us. I will share the recording. And with that, I've even gotten you out a little bit early, but I'd be very happy to take some questions right after I ask Rob to thank everybody on behalf of EPA Region 1.
Yes, just a quick thank you. The EPA gives out grants to states for doing pollution prevention work with a focus on the food industry. And so I wanted to thank, of course, all the different states that are involved in this, and also the University of Massachusetts Lowell and Madeline for her work. And so I think this is going to kicking off a really good series. One of our hope is that we will continue to learn together and build connections and learn how to tackle these challenges together. So thank you, Madeline.
Thank you. And Lauren, thank you for putting into the chat the registration for the next one. So that's May 21st. Again, the third Friday of each month. And with that, I will just thank you all. You may leave, or we can continue the conversation. You can all unmute yourselves or unmute as you wish to ask questions or just to share experiences. But I will formally stop the recording. And again, thank you very much. And whoever would like to stay on, again, just even informally, be great. Thank you all.